Welcome to my show. Welcome to my channel. This is the Hermetic Arts YouTube channel. I'm going to be discussing some things about creation. But what we're going to do, we're taking it back to the 0 point. We have to take it back to the beginning of time and strip away what people think they know about stuff outside of them. Because we have come into this timeline of DNA manipulation, and it's been like that for a long time, ever since the fall out of the tree, the fall out of Maya's time. Everything around the world, it's all the same time and space when it comes to original tribes. And so in this timeline with the DNA manipulated, frequencies manipulated, fake stories being told about stuff when it comes to temples and pyramids and frequencies, biblical stuff, and everything from ancient history, where they give you the story about the pyramids, about temples, if it's Egypt, if it's Israel, but nothing, if it's Christ. If everything that is told in the fairy tale, the fake story, is told across the pond, outside of America. It comes down to manipulation, and no one knows what took place in America 2,000 years ago when the situation happened with Jesus. So when you're getting back into ancient history and you're getting back into stuff, people can go back 500 years into America and talk about that invasion, Mayan invasion, the white people coming, the storyline of the white people coming for the gold and slaughtering all the Native Americans, stuff like that. So, but this is the upside down world, that within and without, as above, so below, micro and macro, heaven on earth. It's hard to comprehend because everything is perceived outside of us. If it's creator, if it's God, if it's source, if it's fairy tales, it's not in people's memory of creation, of within their reincarnation storyline of being here once before in past timelines. A lot of stuff has been manipulated through manipulation of the DNA in the sacred water and so forth. But returning everything back to the people of America and the Naga country and Dragon country and three Indies, and taking it back to pre-Diluvian timelines. We're returning back to the Tree of Life, returning back to Maya's time. And what needed to happen was we needed to go back into time and take back what was broken. We needed to fix the medicine wheels, Sun Cross. We needed to bring forth all the planets, had to clean up the planets, as people say, cleaning up their inner body, their chakras, and realigning themselves with the Christ energy, Christ consciousness. And, the micro and the macro is that the planets are all within you, and that's your chakras, but the manipulation is still there within the frequencies of understanding that how deep the wisdom, the knowledge goes within understanding that when you are reborn into the Christ energy, it's understanding we are built on time, sacred geometry, numbers, frequencies, elementals, water, fire, the air, ether, and all trees and grass and crystals and diamond light, and there's all this stuff that comes from Mother Earth. But what there is the water doesn't come from above. Water comes from below. So there is the inside of this temple. So when you get inside of the temple, see, we have come back into this time. So these are the blueprints to the actual temple. These are the blueprints to time and space. So when they came here, well, doesn't matter what timeline you think of an invasion, you can take it back to the flood, cataclysms, volcanoes, the Ice Age, because the Ice Age was really the wall between realms. So there's portholes. There were portholes between different realms, and that's when you're looking into the world tree of the Nordic times. There are different timelines, giants, and in that perspective. But in this perspective of where we are today, understanding what is below our feet in the alchemical creation of, people talk on the mud floods. I'm going to show you a map of America, because the map that I'm going to show you is pretty important. Okay. So we have this map here, and people talk about mud floods, and they talk about the rivers, and everything. You can see the Blue Kachina, you can see Dragon Line, and all these ley lines and pressure points like the Bermuda Triangle. But I'm going to stick on the Acadian line on the East Coast that runs from Mexico up the East Coast. There's people talk about Atlantis, and they talk about Lemuria, but they look to the South Pacific for Lemuria, and then Atlantis. They look out into the Atlantic Ocean for Atlantis. But you take it back, into the split of Pangea. There's stories, there's fairy tales of giants and floods, and and all this stuff. But no one knows the timelines. No one can quite understand what it means to what the fall out of the tree really means, the fall out of heaven in the micro and macro, because you can think of it in many. There's three different ways. There's the abortion, there's sacrifice, volcano, the fall of Lucy, the stolen fire, this type of stuff. But that stolen fire doesn't have any water. So what has happened, what has transpired over time, is CERN's been dismantled. The demons have been removed from Mother Earth. They've been removed from the sacred water. They've been removed from the elementals. They've been removed from every past timeline that has resided on Mother Earth, within the universe of freeing the ancestors from the sacrificed blood of trauma and past lives, past timelines, and being stuck in the cube of past timelines, because we have freed and we have unlocked the patterns of them entrapping souls, and bringing back, taking everything back and bringing everything back into the water and the fire in the alchemical creation, alchemical lab of Hermes, within God's lab, Divine Mother, Divine Father, and rebalancing the kundalinis within the world tree of bringing forth the lower, burning everything up in the fire with the phoenix rising, and transmuting out of the lower, denser frequencies through rebuilding the ladder, rebuilding the lattice, rebuilding Mother Earth, rebuilding your DNA, rebuilding your chakras, of transmuting from the lower realms to the higher realms. But this is understanding the within the gnosis of within oneself, that these lines here, these Akkadian lines, this Akkadian line here, is a separation between two realms, um, within the as above and so below, because these were the locations of the original temples. You can go back to Tartaria, but there's a threshold where the lion bites his own tail. There's a place where the Ouroboros bites his own tail. And this is the entrance point from one realm to another. People look over in Egypt at the Sphinx. People look over there for the pyramids, but the true original pyramids, the true original castles and temples of heaven on earth were here, here on America, land of the dragons, Naga country, because my intuition, my inner sight shows that once upon a time there was a cliff here, and there was a sphinx in Pennsylvania here on the East Coast, where dragons would come flying out of. So people talk about the Appalachian Mountains. They talk about the veins of Mother Earth. They talk about what's within Mother Earth. People think that the mounds are burial sites, but a lot of them are entrance points into Mother Earth. There are portholes on Mother Earth that people can't see because of the things that have happened over time. And that's a big part of what they did, building the cities and concrete jungles and stuff like that. And people know it, but they don't understand what truly the land resonates with, what Mother Earth resonates with in ancient history of what has actually happened between these portholes, these reflecting the temple, God's kingdom on Mother Earth, Turtle Island, and Rainbow Prophecy, where you had the Mercury. And this is that Greek temple stuff, because there's a lot of intertwining with the Egyptians, with the Mayans, with the Greek, with Native Americans, Old Hindu, Jah. There's all of these ancient timelines, which are all really one, that have branched out, because the original tribes all had the same symbols. They had the same numerical codes, the same sacred geometry. But in today's timeline, everyone speaks a different language and no one can understand symbols because they lost their symbols. They lost their directions of their north, south, east, west, their four corners, medicine wheel, eightfolded path, Buddha's eightfolded path, what alchemy really is, what it takes to create a rainbow, because the rainbow comes from below. And these temples that were here, Maya, Aztec, Inca, whatever you want to think of, you go back to the pre-Diluvian times of when giants, and there were watchers, true watchers, sentinel beings that protected these portholes, the iron shield, the mercury that flowed underneath the veins or underneath Mother Earth, where within the water, the mercury, salt, and sulfur, the mercury transforms into gold and shines from within Mother Earth, shines within these temples through the water, where the transmutation of, you think of the Greek times, but it being these hot springs, the warm water that flows through in the mercury and within us, which is a hot water, cold water combination of fire, of the blue Kachina within the center of the sacred fire, because the red fire isn't below the phoenix, burning phoenix fire is on top, because within that red fire, there's a blue flame, there's a blue liquid, and that is the water fire. That's the fire water. So it's all sacred symbolism, because when that sun shines through the temple out of the water, and once upon a time, if you reflect the mystical medieval castles where they use stained glass and the churches use stained glass to shine the sun into the church, bring the rainbow into the church within the as above, so below, upside down world. The inner sun shines through the water up through these temples, through the mica, through the diamond, through the crystals, through the rainbow that is created through the water, through the sun, through the diamond, through the raindrops, the rainbow in the sky. So the rainbow, as you see the auroras coming from an unknown source, unknown place, it seems like it's coming out of Mother Earth. There were points around Mother Earth where there were temples built on top of 0-point frequencies. And these are the locations in the inner earth, these are locations and so forth that were protected. So we have returned back to this frequency. We returned back to Maya's time with the Mercury, and everything I'm talking about is within you. You are the temple. You know, this is the housing of God's kingdom, within and without, of how I just said, you know, the water is within you, the sun is within you, which is in your belly, the porthole within your belly, and coming up, you know, there's the sun cross, the solar cross within your belly. That reflects the 0-point, the circle and the medicine wheel, 0-point frequency within your belly, where the sun comes up and your DNA is transmuted. Your DNA is transmuted, the lower, denser colors, and it's the place where the babies are born. Okay, but within the consciousness, within the chakra system, within the nadis and the neurological nervous system that's in your water and your blood, projects your inner rainbow because of your chakras, and it comes out your third eye and awakens your mind to being initiated back into the ultraviolet rays of the higher realms. But one's frequency must pass through the lower, denser colors, the black, the red, the yellow, and the white, and be realchemized through the Mercury and the heat signatures of spiritual transformation and energy transformation through the numerical code, through the symbols, through the frequencies, and understanding truly what your third eye is and what your mind is. But the people can't move past their heart chakra. They're not able to move past the green flame of the initiation, the green lion, because this is the Ouroboros, and people don't know where the entrance is to get back into themselves and back into Mother Earth, because humanity is not allowed back into Mother Earth. Their consciousness, they've been possessed by lower frequencies. So this is the whole thing of the Northeast when you're looking at the Finger Lakes, the Serpent Mound, Appalachians, this line here on the East Coast, the Acadian line, because you're talking about the Pangea, the Newark Basin, why they built Philadelphia. You're looking at the Bermuda Triangle, which connects to New Zealand in a spiritual connection. So you're looking at the light body ship, Merkaba, all of these frequencies, all of these energies and cataclysms and so forth. So, but we've returned back, and you can see the Blue Kachina, you can see the Dragon Line. And so the traveling west, people, they got into the gold, Mexico and Maya times, but people can't reflect in this timeline of what it is with, in true reality, the only porthole, the only door, there's only one door to get into the circle, the temple, the house, but it's not, you look into the scriptures and they talk about, the eastern door, you can go as far back as Persia, because that's the eastern door. If you look back into history, you look back at what's happening today, because this is the end. They've been removed from the four corners. They've been removed from everything in Persia being, you look at the situation in the Middle East today, this is taking it all back to the biblical times. But in the frequency, we have transitioned through that in the collective sense, but the humans still playing the religious game, they need to go through that and understand who Jesus really is, who Christ is, the whole thing of Egypt and the storylines of what it all really means. Because the people in America, even if you're Native American, a lot of people know, their sacred water, the lack of understanding the spiritual truth of the land that they walk on today, because Mother Earth was corrupted. Her crystals were corrupted. Her diamonds were corrupted. Her water was corrupted. The gold was corrupted. And that's, if you're looking at the spiritual gold, or if you're looking at the material gold, they were hunting, trying to get into inner earth, because inner earth, the invisible realms, inner earth is heaven on earth, inner earth being heaven. So how are you going to get through when you're looking at everything? They didn't just come here for the material gold. They were trying to get into heaven on earth through, there's many, 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 many levels of spiritual warfare, and a lot of people look above themselves and outside of themselves into this religious warfare, so connecting things over many timelines, and you get into the lizards and the demonic ones, and it's beyond. So that's the part that people can't comprehend, of the animals and dragons and what was once here, because they're not telling you the truth. And if you don't have the spiritual truth, you're being led around by the false light, the fake gold. Don't have the real gold within, because you have to bypass, you have to come through the Mercury and the Uranus rainbow shock within of, it's a frequency thing. So if you've never ascended, how would you know what to expect? If you've never been through the end times, how would you know what to expect? It's just, it keeps going and going and going, because, it's just, we're still on the same timeline as Jesus, as all of these ancient histories, because they're all in your memory bank. But like I said, everything is outside of you. So you have, everything coming through the East Coast, Philadelphia, and, the Rosicrucians, and how they built all this stuff on the East Coast. It's a copy of Rome. It's all, you look at DC and so forth. But, people look at the four corners, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of manipulation. So you're traveling west. This is the main part. There's a lot of stuff like Area 51 and Skinwalker Ranch and a lot of stuff. But, there's, the East Coast is so much older when it comes to stuff. Pennsylvania being the whole volcano, and Susquehanna River being the oldest river on Mother Earth, and it running out of the Finger Lakes in the north. This is the porthole um, back into the Pleiadian realms, because this is the water which pours down out of heaven. Um, and this is the attempt of getting back in. So crossing the threshold, like I said, where there should be a sphinx, there should be a temple in Pennsylvania, because um, it's the head of the serpent mound. So in the reflection of all these mounds and the giants that were once here that protected the land, uh, there it goes really deep. So the traveling west, and you get into the mining of the gold and getting into California. The buck stops, situation stops at the Four Corners. Um, there's a porthole at the Four Corners people know of, but so there's two directions here that run down through the Four Corners, out of the Serpent Mound and the energy points of Newark Basin and Chicago area, St. Louis, where there was a mound city that they destroyed and built St. Louis on top of a mound city of, you know, top of a cemetery. So you have the Mason-Dixon line that everybody knows about, and then you have the Nikola Tesla. And people forgot about the Philadelphia Art Museum and the location of where Tesla made the Navy ship disappear in Philadelphia. So this is an energy point that comes across the Atlantic Ocean, 40th parallel. But what they tried to do within the Mason-Dixon is they tried to manipulate the 40th parallel, the ley lines, and manipulate and cut off the energy from people understanding, from the people attempting to get back into heaven on earth. Because they needed to control the porthole, they needed to control the ley lines. And so as they were attempting, building the city, they were doing the Mason-Dixon line. And the Mason-Dixon line, it's this area where I'm at in Pennsylvania and so forth. The energy line runs down to the Four Corners. And this energy line, there's many energy lines that come out of the Northeast. So running down, as you see, the Blue Kachina and so forth, this was a line that was running to China, the line that China was following. But the whole thing of trying to find the pressure point in the middle of the South Pacific. But the Blue Kachina blew him out of the water. It's a interesting thing. So these ones who came and mined Mother Earth for her elements, but they've been doing it for a long time, for thousands of years. You look at all of the copper, and that was here in, I think it's Michigan, all the copper mines, and going back, and all the crystals that are under Mother Earth in Mexico that we've seen. But going to the west, you get into the Sasquatch, you get into the giants, and there's portholes. You get into the gold. There's a lot of gold under the ground, but what people don't understand is gold grows, silver grows, everything grows within Mother Earth, like a tree. We are a tree. We grow from a baby to an adult. Hopefully we can mature. A lot of people can't, but we are traveling west, and we follow the road west, and you look at, they did not travel west on the 33rd parallel or down the Bible Belt. It was up on the 40th parallel when you're thinking of the gold. You're coming out of Philadelphia, coming out of New York, and this whole thing of the Northeast, instead of coming across the bottom route, we will say. So there's the 40th parallel, there's ley lines and stuff. So you get out there through Pennsylvania, through Serpent Mound, Utah, um, Utah reflecting, some other stuff. And then you get into California, but you get into the mines, and you get into the silver mines, you get into the gold, you get into the Golden Gate Bridge, and why was El Dorado County, South Lake Tahoe, the where they say they first found gold? We know it's not the location of where they first found gold. All you gotta do is look at the Maya times. All you gotta do is look out here, everywhere else. They stripped everything else, Valley Forge and all the mines, gold mines that were here on the East Coast. So there's a lot of, you look into the diamonds and stuff, but getting out to California, and there's the Emerald Triangle. The Emerald Triangle, the East Coast or the West Coast, the as above, so below, within the Sasquatch, within the Emerald Ray, within the Hermetic Lab, the green line of transmutation of your chakras, your blue water, your gold, your mercury, your silver, your gold, which is within your waters, within you transmuting the green flame of the Emerald Tablet, which people have heard of, but the Emerald Tablet, the Emerald Flame, people think of Thoth and they think of Egypt, and that's part of another part of this manipulation, where there's one book. They fed people one book. They fed people a storyline. People regurgitate the same book. It's not the Emerald Tablet of Thoth. It's the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, which is something different. And but the green emerald also reflects to the jade, the turquoise, because bypassing, see, the green lion is the Ouroboros. The green lion is the dragon. It's the heart center. But behind the heart center is the rose crux. The higher heart is the pink flame. The 13th dragon bloodline and all this stuff. But what people don't understand is to reach, people are stuck in their 7 lower colors. They're stuck in their 7 chakras. They're stuck in their 4. True humanity hasn't purged their sacrificed ancestors' blood. So they haven't passed the 4 denser colors of the black, red, yellow, and white within their medicine wheel of understanding the tribes. And so to bypass the colors, the initiation, one coming into their heart center and understanding the 7 colors, but the green being the center point, and what emerges with is the high heart. But the pink is created by the blue and the red Kachina through a specific frequency, because that is your water and that is your fire, your masculine and your feminine of creation. So your phoenix rising within the perfect balance of transmutation. But there's different initiation points through, people talk on the violet flame, but the violet flame being something that people just regurgitate and have no knowledge about, no wisdom about, because truly your red and your blue turn purple. One must go through the violet flame of transmutation first to purge one's sacrificed blood, to purge the demons out of the blood and their water, then step into another initiation point of transmuting into the green flame and transmuting into the pink high heart. But people, humanity, are not allowed back into this frequency, because it is the pink Kachina. It is Mary. It's the child. It's the feminine. It's Mother Earth. It's the rose crux. And so when you're traveling, because you look at the gold, black gold, white gold, green gold, or turquoise gold, and then rose gold. Okay, it's a hue color. It's a tint. Because everything is, you look at crystals and everything has to be compressed into a diamond. Everything needs to be hardened. So there's a lot of different elementals that come together in different forms that create things, from what is within the water. So we're moving past the green. You have the Sasquatch, and you have the Emerald Triangle, and you have everything out west. And then you get up into British Columbia and Vancouver, and you can see Alaska, and then you can see the Dragon Line that runs across. You see, that's the part of dragon energy being pumped into this part of America. Because up there in Alaska, you can find rose gold. So the rose gold being the pink gold, and this is the transmutation of what people think of within themselves, and in Mother Earth. But people only look at crystals. They look at your basic crystals for your light workers and star seeds. But if you're going back before then, you're looking at rocks. You're looking at minerals. You're looking at, what people know nothing about. Geology, geometry, true frequencies. But this thing, this is where we are. So all of these people, all humanity, and then you have the AI, which the AI has creating all of these data centers. And I've had visions, I've gone and soul traveled into the AI, where they have creating their humanoid, creating their Terminator with their left red eye, and going within this location is the fallen blood that has been they talk about the giant's blood. A lot of people have talked about Gilgamesh, and them coming and finding him and taking the blood, and transmuting it and putting it into the AI, and trying to regenerate the blood in the machine through hijacking the water of Mother Earth, because they're attempting to hijack the water. They don't have water. This is spiritual, okay? They don't have any sacred water because they lost all the elementals. They lost all the sacred water. They lost everything. Okay, this is why they're in the machine. But there is an ancient technology. There are these giants who are in the veins of Mother Earth. We will say they are frequency busters, we will say, that will come forth and destroy the data centers, because Mercury, the water, is returning as it once was within these temples. This is why they created the data centers, to try and trap the rainbow, try and trap the giants, try and trap the frequencies, try and trap the portholes, so the AI can live off of the water and the frequencies of Mother Earth. But in reality, they don't have anything. They have their own outer world away. It's here, but it's the only places that they reside is within the AI and within the fallen humans. The percentage of people today now that are non-human, that are possessed, the ones who have gone into, trusting the jabs and trusting the situation today without questioning anything, that is the mind control over humanity on many different levels. And people can see what's happening within the cities of destroying humanity in just like 2-3 generations. But this is what they do. And, these are the end days. And these ones, people need to find the Christ within, lift up their frequency, come into unconditional love, because people have a choice. But you have to battle within and come back into your 0 point of remembering who you are, and returning back to one with Mother Earth. Because the storyline has been repeating for thousands of years. It's the same storyline. Doesn't matter what timeline you look at. But we're living at the end of it now. We're living in the end days, because I know. And there's nobody out there who can tell me anything different. Everything is just an opinion on stuff. Because when your DNA is upgraded, when Creator, Great Spirit, upgrades your DNA and returns you to the water, you know everything. You can read all timelines. You can read the energy. You can read people. You know. And so being a druidic, coming from the druidic order of a pre-diluvian timeline, things have been written on my DNA where I don't need to know things. I don't need to read a book to know things. I don't need someone else's opinion to tell me something, because Creator has already given it back to me, because I've been through everything. That's just pretty much how it is. What does one have to say about the situation today? They know nothing about it. This is why people don't talk. It's too spiritual. So these are the end days. Welcome to the show.